G'day, welcome to New Game Plus TV, not live on Twitch. Whoa, we're actually on set at GG Easy, Melbourne's premier esports bar.
Yes, Melbourne's premier bar, full stop. Like, this is our haunt. You'll see at least one of us here probably every weekend, I'd say. We're always rotating in and out. But yeah, especially now that restrictions are up, it's time to come to GG and chill out.
Because we can't get into a real studio.
Yeah, that's true.
And also, this is more fun.
Yeah, this is more fun because we can just grab what we want.
Have a good time.
Yeah. But it is. It's a lot of things. It's the first time we've been able to film in person again.
9 months.
It's 9 months. Yeah. It's been it's a milestone.
It is.
It is.
We got 50 episodes in a year.
Yes.
That is stupid.
Gonna need about 250 on that one. What? God damn you.
Really chill. It's fine.
Fine. But it also happens to be our Game of the Year episode. So it's worked out very, very well in the grand scheme of things. Because not only we get to milestone at 350, we get to come to GG, which is always fun. And we get to talk about Game of the Year, which is basically most of the episode.
Dreamy. So we've got our individual Game of the Year picks coming up a little bit later on. We're going to reveal New Game Plus's Game of the Year. Jace is not crappy about this year's pick.
I'm fine with this.
He was incredible. Dude, God of War was great though, wasn't it? And we also have Don recapping the year that was 2020, at least in gaming. Well, mostly, yeah, no. The trash fire that was 2020. 350. 350?
350.
Let's get into it.
I don't need to tell you that 2020 was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad year. Bushfires, pandemic, Rudy Giuliani, you know the drill. So how did we try to escape from all of this? Well, some of us got really into gardening or watching television programs or baking. I got good at Sudoku. But many of us retreated to the pure escapism, that is video games, whether we were gardening in our isolated islands, okay? Or maybe we were experiencing the compelling narrative of a world ruined by a global infection. That's really on the nose. Or maybe we, come on, video games! Now, it might feel right to just want to forget that this year ever happened, but there were very valuable lessons that we could take from 2020, especially in the world of gaming with 2 news stories. We simply cannot choose to ignore them. For one, 2020 really highlighted the amount of crunch that is present in our industry. Now, it is common practice for studios to make their developers work excessive overtime in the weeks, sometimes even months, before a game's completion. But what if that crunch period went on and on and on, with no end in sight, much like a Christopher Nolan film? This is what we got with Cyberpunk 2077. This game was originally supposed to come out in April 2020, but then it got delayed to September, and then to November, and then finally to December 10 ? We are recording this on the 8th of December, otherwise known as the 283rd day of March. So there is a non-zero chance that this game may be delayed once more. It would be incredibly on brand if it were. Cyberpunk's developer, CD Projekt Red, has had a mandatory 6-day working week in place since September, and there are reports that people there have been crunching since at least the start of the year. Now, the method of acting may work for someone like Adrian Brody, but you do not need to have a dystopian work environment in order to create a dystopian open world game. And here is the real irony here. CD Projekt Red had previously been proud of a non-obligatory crunch policy, going so far as to twice committing in 2019, twice, not to overly crunch its workers. That pledge ended up about as well as some of our New Year's resolutions for this year, including those relating to travel and to cutting down on the beers. I highlight Cyberpunk 2020 here, but almost every game goes through some form of crunch, whether they be big AAA titles or smaller indie efforts. This was made even worse with the global pandemic and the need to work from home, especially for those whose work computers are in their bedrooms. Although at least those people had the choice to sleep in their beds as opposed to under their desks. 2020 also saw a resurgence in the Me Too movement within the gaming industry. Now, before we go on, I am aware of the optics of yet another dude grossly simplifying the issue of toxic masculinity in the gaming industry. This is me checking my privilege at the door. In the months of June and July, there were an avalanche of stories from people, mostly women, who had been discriminated against, harassed, or even assaulted by people in positions of power. Thanks to their stories, many lecherous leaders, streamers, and esporters lost their jobs, their Twitch accounts, and any ability to attend a gaming convention without being side-eyed to death. One company that came under particular scrutiny during this time is Ubisoft, the company that gives you all the towers in the world just so long as you don't use them to climb through the glass ceiling. Past and present employees came with many stories about their time at Ubisoft involving racism, sexism, homophobia, bullying, and manipulation. It's almost as if Ubisoft was intentionally trying to complete toxic workplace bingo. Even worse, Ubisoft reportedly ignored many of the claims made by its employees. I was wondering where the name Ubisoft came from. Turns out that's how HR responds to its employees' claims. So your manager wants you to wear tighter shirts? Pfft, Ubisoft. One person in particular I want to talk about is Creative Officer Serge Askewet. He had a lot of power within Ubisoft. He basically had the power to greenlight or kill off any project within the company at a whim. So here are just some of the stories of his behavior at Ubisoft as reported on by Bloomberg Businessweek. He was infamous for what colleagues described as growling. He sometimes held business meetings at strip clubs, a habit that his deputies began to adopt. Askewet would promote many of his strip club buddies to creative directors, a group composed almost entirely of men. Askewet pushed subordinates to drink excessively and gave colleagues cakes containing marijuana without their knowledge. Wow. At this point, I'm convinced that Askewet is actually the background character in an 80s frat house film that has somehow managed to escape into the real world. I'm surprised that under his stewardship, the Assassin's Creed franchise didn't devolve into one big wet t-shirt contest. Askewet and two other Ubisoft executives resigned from their posts after all these stories started coming out, and more Ubisoft leaders left the company throughout the year as a result of their behavior being called out. However, it's going to take a long time before all the toxic elements are taken out of Ubisoft and out of the gaming industry as a whole. And it's on that appropriately bleak note that we ended this 2020 wrap in video gaming news. COVID has revealed a lot of deep-seated flaws both in society and in the gaming industry. However, with COVID, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are lessons to be learned from this year, and if we learn them, society will become all the more better as a result. I sincerely hope that we can say the same thing about the gaming industry. Otherwise... And that is everything that has happened in the world, ever. That is not water right there.
What are video games?
What does it mean?
What are video games? What is 2020? Nobody knows.
I'm rubbing off.
But this year was Spider-Man. That's the only game you need to know because there were other games, but nobody remembers them because this was a void year full of void games. That you thought came out this year, didn't. It came out like last year. Don't worry about it. My game of the year, though, for this weird voidscape of 2020 is Spider-Man Miles Morales. Why? Spider-Man, New York, representation. As you can tell, I'm from New York, sort of, and I'm also Puerto Rican, and seeing the trailer where the Puerto Rican flag was like right there, oh, just tears. You have more powers, you have venom, you have camouflage, and the game, and you know, the story's pretty good for like a 10-hour game. It's short. I want it to be meatier. There are just all of these little things that made it better than the previous game, and it still wanted me to have more. And it's my game of the year because I miss New York, and you know what? That's good enough.
So 2020 was one of those years where I think I had a favorite game of the year almost every week because there would be something coming out. And then 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim came out, and like, after I played it for maybe half an hour to an hour, I'm like, this is it. This is the game of the year. Everything this game does is amazing. It bothers me that no one else has played it or at least finished it. And it's easily the best game of the year no one's going to play. And it's so much better than The Last of Us, you guys. I'm sorry to tell you this because it's actually ambitious and wild and crazy. And it sticks it all together in such a really cool way. See, in most games you have like one or two characters. Maybe the story isn't so great. In 13 Sentinels you have 13 different characters, 13 different stories that all coalesce between one another, and somehow it all works. There's some really great writing, really great kind of plot development. You actually care about all these characters, and it's just... hasn't been a game such a long time that just feels like it is wild, ambitious, and just completely stuck it all together to create something really unique and memorable. Please, for the love of God, play this game. You will not be disappointed.
So 2020 was a garbage fire year. I think everyone kind of knows that, but it was also the first year that I was living out of home and interstate. So I found a lot more comfort in playing older games that kind of made me feel any sort of comfort, because between the smoky, like on fire, like apocalyptic vibes, and also being locked inside your shoebox home, that's more of a me choice. I was playing a lot of like Alpha Sapphire, Fire Emblem Fates, Skyrim. But the game that I played that actually came out this year, more than any other game and more than I expected to, was Animal Crossing New Horizons. I have not cared for an Animal Crossing game. They seemed like such, like, not games, right? Like that's how I looked at it before I started playing Animal Crossing New Horizons. And as Melbourne came and went between lockdowns, I came and went back and forth with Animal Crossing New Horizons. I played like 150 hours. I don't care about 5-star. I will not. I do not have the skill or the, I'm not dedicated enough to do it. But I have spent so much time in that game. I love so much about that game. It might gather a bit too much dust from here on out, gonna be honest. But this year, it was what I needed. And I think it's what a lot of people needed.
The Last of Us, as much as there's a lot of pushback and a lot of silly boys on the internet carrying on, it's still the best game of this year. It's got its problems, it's got its pacing issues, it's got its definite kind of identity issues, trying to figure out what it actually wants to achieve. It's still the best game of the year. But honestly, like, the game of the year, like the thing of the year for me is Game Pass. All I've done all year is play Game Pass games. Like, it is insane to me how many Game Pass games I play. Yeah, like Animal Crossing's been great. Yeah, there's been lots of like other side stuff that I've definitely put a lot of hours into. But holy crap, man, like genuinely all my gaming this year has been Game Pass and then Last of Us. And then that's basically the conversation ended.
All right, so let's get down to brass tacks. 2020 was a trash fire, but for video games, it was still business as usual, not COVID normal. Business as usual. All right, moving on. My favorite game of the year is without a doubt this bad boy right here, Moon Remix RPG Adventure. Now, I'm cheating a little bit on this because this was a PlayStation game that came out in 1997, but in Japan only, and it finally got a localization this year. And I think the best part about it, and what really kind of makes it shine, is how good the localization is. In the sense that it manages to maintain the beats of the original game, manages to splash in a lot of colorful humor, also fairly relevant to English-speaking countries and dialects. And I think even the game itself is just brimming with joy, it's brimming with wonder, it's brimming with life. It's definitely a game that's really, really special to me. It's kind of really struck a chord that not other games this year have, and I'm proud to have it as my game of the year of 2020.
So in 2019, my streaming service told me that my most listened to album was Hades Town. In 2020, my streaming service told me that my most listened to album was Hades Town, which is appropriate in this year, which just felt like one big time loop rather, which is appropriate given that my game of the year is the roguelite Hades minus Town. Like, I was always predisposed to love a Supergiant game, but even just devoid of all that bias, of all the Hades and Supergiant bias, like, this game just stands up in and of itself as an entire cohesive piece of wonder. The art is still striking to this day, despite the fact we've had 4 of these sort of games. The music is some of Darren Korb's best. The moment-to-moment gameplay has been polished down to a T. And the great innovation that Hades introduces to the roguelite genre is to have a deep emphasis on narrative. There is something like 300,000 lines of dialogue that were written for this game. So even though I've played 80+ hours of it, I don't think I've heard a single repeating line of key dialogue. And it was worth playing through that game for 80 hours, going through those loops over and over to get better at the game's mechanics, to find out more about the grander narrative of why Zagreus is escaping from the underworld. Like I cannot say enough positive things about this game, and it is appropriate that in a year that we've all felt like in a time loop, where I've listened to the same old music, that I have this roguelite to go back to. So that is why Hades is my 2020 game of the year.
Now, you don't hear much from me, but one thing I will tell you is I'm a massive Last of Us fan. When the first one came out,
It was exactly my kind of game. Perfectly realized, well-driven storytelling game. Really good storytelling game. When Last of Us 2 came out, same thing. Wonderfully executed storytelling. So when it came to picking my game of the year this year, I picked Final Fantasy VII Remake. I really can't speak to it enough how much I really like The Last of Us and how much they nailed it again with the second one. But that's the key word, again. They made The Last of Us and they made The Last of Us again without dropping standards, but they still made The Last of Us again. So it wasn't a new experience. It was, despite being an excellent experience, for me it wasn't a new experience. So for me, Final Fantasy VII just beat it out because of that, which is odd, because Final Fantasy VII is a game that came out over 20 years ago. But somehow in this remake, while not a perfect game, they made a whole new experience, yet a very familiar experience at the same time. I don't know how they did that. And I really enjoyed Final Fantasy VII as both a new and old experience. And that was just such a weird mix to make in a game, and that's why for me, it got Game of the Year, even above the hallowed ground of Naughty Dog's storytelling.
So those are all of our individual picks. If you've just come back from an ad break, God, we're on TV.
I know,
what
right?
a concept.
Yeah.
Television, terrestrial.
I could use a little fuel myself.
We're going to count down New Game Plus's top 5, and we'll give you some fun facts afterwards as well,
yes,
because we crunched Prospect crunched the numbers, because I'm not going to. But number 5.
Number 5. What was it?
Ghost of Tsushima.
It was. Good job.
I forgot this game actually came out this year.
Yeah, that was why I made you do it.
I keep forgetting it. So Ghost of Tsushima came out real early in the year. It was like March,
no, it was June. It got pushed back.
Okay.
It got delayed till after Last of Us.
What did Don say? Like day 200 and whatever of March.
Yeah.
Concept of time it's not real. But Ghost of Tsushima, I have not played a whole lot of it.
But look, I'll put it like this: the people who did it put it reasonably high in their tally. My main thing with Ghost of Tsushima is if you're comparing yourself to Kurosawa, then I'm not playing you.
That was a bit of a cop-out mode, wasn't it?
It's got black and white mode, just like a Kurosawa. Get the fuck out.
Black and white is not.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anyway, that's for Instagram profile photos. Anyway, number 4 is Hades, which is an interesting.
Yes.
It technically came out, but that was early access.
It was on early access on Epic for a while, and it came out officially on everything.
Correct. Yeah. And so it's been popular. It's Supermassive Games. Is that the name? The guys who Bastion and stuff like that.
And Transistor, I think.
Transistor, yeah. Yep. So it's one of their games. You know what I mean? And so it's got that same style, that same
the Supergiant lineage.
Yes, Supergiant lineage. Very good way to put it. It wouldn't be a New Game Plus one without the following game, which is of course Final Fantasy VII Remake. Not surprised in the slightest that it at least made somebody's
Not
list.
at all. I don't think anyone would have been surprised.
I didn't think it would have come through. I thought Hades. I was worried Hades would win. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
Yeah, I was already calling people plebs.
I knew that Hades was going to be good, but I wasn't expecting it to be like Game of the Year.
Well, I
Final
think at the same
Fantasy,
point,
I expected less of.
yeah,
in that regard.
that's true. Well, I mean, yeah, because so many people complained about it, and then look, I don't know. Someone got the Model T file. I'm sure someone's happy about that. But like, it's interesting that they've gone the way they did with it. Like, it wasn't a one-to-one retelling, and it can't be now. Like, it completely deviates.
Yeah,
off
so
the rails.
it's like Remake Part 1 essentially.
Yes.
So they're going to be releasing more of them. So in 5 years' time, we get Remake
Number 2.
Part 2.
Yeah.
Out of
that is
4?
how it works. Yeah, I mean, it depends. If it's look, that's a tough.
That's
It's a
something
Nomura joke. Let's not go into it.
Let's not. Number 2.
Number 2.
Number 2. Animal Crossing New Horizons. I understand why it got number 2. I am still gutted. I wish that I was obsessed with it for so long, and you and Meg were so hell-bent on being like, we're going to convert Jack into playing Animal Crossing New Horizons.
I'm okay. Let me be clear. It's still in my list of things, just based on how much I've played it, how much enjoyment I've got out of it. But I'm a simple man. I will do my dailies. I will go fishing. I will check turnip prices.
Yeah.
I will sell all my stuff. I'll get my Nook Miles tickets. I've got 270,000 Nook Miles.
This man has an insane island. It is just people, him.
Yeah.
Nothing in between.
Yeah, that's how it works.
What are you doing?
Everyone loses it. That doesn't matter. It's my rooftop poppy field. That's my business. Anyway,
Number 1.
But the main thing I would say is the worst thing about Animal Crossing is the villages. They're the one thing they need to increase is the amount of personality types, because they all say the same goddamn
I have like
thing.
4 normal villages.
I would say the worst thing about the game is the villages, and that's what a lot of people, funnily enough, came for. But then they gave them the crafting and the ability to make Japanese laneways, and so suddenly that's what thing. Number one.
Number one.
I'll be surprised. What is it?
I don't think anyone's surprised. I'm disappointed that you weren't ripped off like you were last year.
I know, because it's funnier content, I understand.
The Last of Us 2.
Yes, and it is the best game of this year, and that's kind of as simple as
I mean, you did the review, and you pointed out a number of flaws with it.
Yes.
In the review.
Yeah.
Even given all of that?
For sure. Like, look, when they finally do the Last of Us TV show, it'll be super easy because all they'll do is they'll take the story of one, and they'll fix that to make a 10-episode series, and then season 2 will be the second one, and they won't have to change anything because it's written like premium TV. It's written like 10 episodes of TV. All the bad faith aside, all of the other things aside, it does enough interesting things with the changes to the gameplay, does enough interesting things with the world that, it's funnily enough, Last of Us topped our list as far as like, I think 74% of its votes for
number one.
For number one. So it won clear.
Yeah.
Right? Animal Crossing, funnily enough, was really not anyone's first
Animal
pick.
Crossing was, it was my first pick,
Yeah.
but for a lot of people, it placed sort of 2, 3 sort of on the rankings. So because of that, The Last of Us 2 came out on top.
And probably one of the more interesting things as well is it's all got to be said. We all had our axe to grind. So it was Jamie and Prospect handling the list. They would have seen all of our individual axes to grind because there were 11 titles that got voted for by one person.
Yep.
And then there were 12 titles which got multiple votes from multiple people. So
it is not a hive mind. It is not the new
list. The list was split between everyone's personal axe to grind and what they thought should win the thing. And that was definitely true for me because my second one, believe it or not, was Part-Time UFO. Which
Jamie maintains is not a 2020 game, but I will stand by Jason. Not often. On this point, Part-Time UFO, go and fucking play it.
It's such a good game.
iPhone or Switch, I don't care.
Either one's good. And I think they've just updated it to the newer version on iPhone as well, so you get all the extra maps and stuff like that. So
I'm going to play Part-Time UFO as soon as we finish.
Because it's weird, it doesn't matter.
I'm super excited. Anyway,
yes.
New Game Plus 2020. This was a bit of a car crash year.
Yes.
Flat out. Like, we started off on a bit of a bad note. Oh, the country's on fire. And then
it's like, we're at RMIT
lockdown.
and everything's fine. And it's like,
everything was not
COVID
fine.
will be over in a couple months. Don't worry about it.
It's like SARS and MERS. It was not like SARS and MERS.
It was not like. It was.
So we got knocked into remote sort of patchwork recording from home.
Yeah.
And then C31 almost got shut down again. And then, God, who's the comms minister now? Fletcher the night before was like, no, it's fine. It's all good. And we're like,
I called it though. I told you what he was going to do.
We pick up, we end up recording podcast, live stream style, twitch.tv/NewGamePlusTV.
Yeah.
We're not recording the show live, but there's plenty of good content there. We stream a few nights a week. Go and check it out.
Yeah.
We are finally the last episode of this year,
yes.
350.
And the last episode forever.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. This is the last episode of New Game Plus TV in its current format. 350 is a good time to cap it. Liam's ring can now say 350. He always wanted to get to 250. He got there. 350 is it. And we will be coming back next year. We'll still be on the same time slot. We'll still be on in showing different content that we make.
Yep.
So you'll see how that kind of comes out as this is coming out. The guys literally are finding this out as I'm saying it to you, and I deliberately did that because I wanted them to.
I think it's more fun to have 3 format changes in the span of a year.
True. And so I think more than anything, it showed us that format can work for content.
It did.
And so it could be definitely down that route. And then we'll still have all the other cool stuff. But yeah, we will still, as long as they'll have us, as long as we're able to do it, we'll still be on C31.
As long as C31 is running?
Yeah.
I think that it probably will get another year because we've had 6 years of it or whatever of extensions at this point. But C31 and C44, please continue supporting these stations.
We'll still be here as long as they'll have us.
Support.
Absolutely, they do. And make sure you email Fletcher and tell him how much you like the shows and want to watch. And thank you to everyone. Through August and September, we were the 6th most watched show on the network.
We were. That was crazy.
We're considering we're not prime time. That's not bad. So thank you to everyone who did watch. And the viewership has swelled, and it's kind of slowly coming down now that we've got Christmas and people watching their Christmas specials and stuff. But do support your local content creators and stuff. Do check out newgameplus.tv.
That's the website.
That is the website where all the content, no matter how we change things, will be going.
On Twitch, we are twitch.tv/newgameplusTV. A few streams a week.
Yes.
Sometimes show records. You never know what you're going to get. It's a fun grab bag.
That's it.
YouTube gets a lot of stuff. YouTube.com/newgameplusTV. You can also catch up on previous episodes and on social media. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at New Game Plus TV. Go and follow us because you won't be seeing us for a few weeks, maybe a month or two.
We'll still be on Twitch. We'll still be doing various things
on your TV.
On your TV, and we'll still be having fun. So come watch, enjoy yourselves, and have
a good time.
Have a good time. It's we're finally allowed out. This is in Melbourne, of course.
Crazy.
Finally allowed out again.
House.
Come to GG. It's a great place to visit.
It is.
But for now, I think that's it, Jack.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jack.
And we'll catch you guys next time.
Kampai.
Kampai.